Thank you. Oh, please.
Solution. There's no way to go. Like a stand to stay. Leaders become a revolution. I stand to stay. Revolution has a long way to go. But I stand to stay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Police, let's respectfully leaders.
Honorable colleagues, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen from the media, let's once again thank you sincerely for the swift response. Colleagues, can we have some quiet? We thank you sincerely for the swift response, and we thank you very much for coming in your numbers to cover this press conference after the terrible mess and playing with emotions and playing with our rules and democracy when people cannot even swallow their ego, but just try to play with our democracy. We are here to address you after the what we all saw, kind of kangaroo parliament they are trying to create. This will be addressed by no other person but our great leader, the minority leader. And after that, we'll open it up for you to ask questions. Without wasting much time, I'll hand over to the minority leader to address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Whip, colleagues in leadership, and very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, colleague MPs, today will pass in history as a dark day for Ghana's constitutional parliamentary democratic practice. And a dark day because those seeking to govern are seeking to approbate and reprobate at the same time. As a popular maxim of equity, which states that he who seeks equity must do equity, and he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Today, I intend to address three fundamental issues. One, to explain why the minority were not in the chamber, because as far as practicable, we on Friday rejected the 2022 budget, which which is reflected in the votes and proceedings. And I'm particularly happy that even the majority leader in his submissions admitted that we were 137, but decided to lead his side to walk out. A walk out to avoid humiliating defeat that was deserving of him and his government. And that's why I say, let me refer you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, I'll deal with Article 104 comprehensively, supported by Standing Order 109 comprehensively. And just read 104.3 for my purposes. Except as 104.1, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of the members of Parliament present. The word voting was not even added to this particular constitutional provision. But more importantly is Article 104.3. And this is where the Ghanaian people must know them for what they are and what they stand for. That they don't believe in the letter and spirit of this constitution. Neither do they have faith that minority views must be respected and upheld for the good of our country and for the good of our governance. 104.3 reads, and I'm going to do some constitutional arithmetic for our purposes. It reads, where the votes on any motion are equal, it shall be taken to be a loss. So when you take Friday votes and proceedings, we're 137. They haven't even today challenged it. The total number of members of Parliament present, I'm not going to add and voting, just present, was 274. So demonstrably, our 137 were present. It is reported there that one of their members, Sarah Ajua Safo, was absent. So under Article 104.3, they were aware that if they had voted, there will be 137 and will be 137, and the vote would have been lost. That is constitutional. So we want the Ghanaian people to understand, whilst they stage a walkout, Parliament is not about I have these numbers in the air or outside the chamber, but I have these members present and voting. So it was to avoid a humiliating defeat. So mathematically, they had no option. The Friday could only produce one irresistible outcome, 137, 137, which makes the budget Yamutu killed. So we have no hesitation, apart from the fact that they were present and walked out on their own volition, voluntarily, having asked for division. Who walks away from a division? When you ask for it, you stay to be counted. But because they knew that it will produce equality of vote, which meant that the budget was defeated, they sought to walk out. Now they say they respect the Constitution, and they say they respect the standing orders of Parliament. Today, I'm particularly disappointed in the conduct of the first Deputy Speaker, having to include himself and to exercise a vote in order to meet their mandatory defined 138 without recourse or respect to our standing orders and to the 1992 Constitution. Let him be reminded, and I quote, Standing Order 109, voting in the House. If you want, I'll read it in full. But Standing Order 1092 reads, Mr. Speaker shall have neither an original nor a custom vote, and if upon any question before the House the votes are equally divided, the motion shall be lost, as I indicated. But for our purposes today, 1093 reads, a Deputy Speaker, and for my purposes, first Deputy Speaker, and the member for Bekwai. It reads, I added that. The Constitution says, a deputy speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote whilst presiding. So constitutionally, they were also 137. So Ghanaians should expect that what they have done is also a nullity to quote them if we are to respect the provisions of the Constitution. Standing Order 109 is also itself derived from a constitutional provision of Article 104(2), which reads, the Speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. We all know for purposes of today that the person presiding and the Speaker for today was the Honorable Joseph Osei-Owusu of Bekwai as Speaker. He has no business counting himself among them, and therefore, as far as we are concerned, today's vote reflected another 137 by those who respect the tenets of the Constitution and the standing orders of the Parliament of Ghana. So for the media, I repeat for your ears again, a deputy speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote whilst presiding. They chose conveniently to quote Right Honorable Do Ajaho, one of our own, and a proud one, of course. Therefore, what they said by the Honorable Do Ajaho is as relevant for their purposes because they are not 138 by the words of the Honorable Do Ajaho. They were 137. But I'll share with you some other quotes from other speakers, including the Honorable late Peter Alajete of blessed memory and Professor Mike Okwe. But distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Ghanaian public must also know where was the minority as they went in to do their charade of some constitutional acrobatics to please their conveniences. Our explanation is that yes, they consulted us in a discussion this morning. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, is it not significant to note, and I'm quoting both the majority leader and the Minister of Finance, and I paraphrase them, approve this budget subject to the concessions granted by the Honorable Minister, unquote. Where are the concessions in the budget? Any of you who knows the concessions, share it with us. Therefore, what were you approving? If there were concessions, and that was our view, revise the budget to reflect those concessions. And we remain standing with that position. We said that if you are acknowledging and admitting that there were concessions, let it reflect in a text, not at committee level and not some engagement at committee level. Indeed, the vexed issue for which there was a stalemate, for which we could not discuss further, was the matter of e-levy. Our original position was that no to e-levy. They explained to us the difficulties and circumstances of the economy and the fact that they needed some additional revenue for purposes of consolidation, fiscal consolidation. We referred to them that the brilliant economists at ISA has suggested that review it downwards. Therefore, we said if you could go to 0.5 to 1%, we could accommodate you for the good of the Ghanaian people. They said it was their budget and they were not prepared to review the e-levy. So the Ghanaian people, we then decided that they must stand alone in it because we believe sincerely that it's punitive, as Professor Korte said, and it does not serve as a good tax instrument because it's regressive. We also asked them to adjust even the threshold of this 100 Ghana, maybe upward. They also said they were not ready to do that. So if you didn't see the minority cooperating, these were the very reasons we are unable to support them. So we're determined to support them to redeem the economy because we want to inherit a healthy economy under President Mahama in the very foreseeable future of 2025. But the difficulty was that they said on those matters. Now let me come to the business of Parliament. When you lay a budget statement minus concessions and you approve it without knowing the concessions, what have you approved? What have you approved? So let's get serious. Those of you who are familiar with the work of Parliament, we have seen motions amended on the floor of Parliament. It was just for the Minister for Finance to amend those aspects of the budget statement, or for better choice of a word, revise it. For instance, on Acre Energy, we clearly drew their attention that your rendition does not reflect the resolution which were passed by Parliament. An unpleasant truth which he must accept today and accept tomorrow. He can't alter that. So if you don't change it in the budget statement, where else are you going to change it? Which committee are you going to change it? We said Ejapa. We will not support Ejapa today. We will not support it tomorrow, because this Minister of Finance have collateralized every opportunity and revenue in order that he can endanger the future for an incoming political administration led by John Dramani Mahama and the NDC. Ghana Exim securitized, Get Fund collateralized, ESLA extended by 9 years when the sunset was supposed to be for 5 years. Therefore, we simply said, don't collateralize our mineral resources. Because even without collateralization, you earn $130 million every other year. So, live with that. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, we will address a full-scale press conference on all these issues. But we needed to let the Ghanaian people know where we stand. We don't support the e-levy in its form and character as announced in paragraph 315 and 316 of the budget statement. Our indication to them to revise it to take care of the ordinary people, particularly people who depend on $100 remittances from abroad, even when the ranking member of finance schooled them that not all the remittances go to household. Some of it is for purposes of business, capital. As the Honorable Adongo observed, you don't tax capital. So concessions, I want anybody to show to me where they have approved a budget subject to unknown concessions. The concessions are known only to Minister of Finance and to the Honorable Osechi Mensah Boso. Is that how the Parliament of Ghana should work? Is that how Parliament should approve a budget policy and economic policy statement of government? We are a very constructive and reasonable opposition. Therefore, we made adjustment. We also further indicated to them that you cannot automatically adjust fees and charges. We said if you want, you can take it to the Public Financial Management Act so that it will be taken care of, but not at the behest of Minister Ken Ofori-Atta that every other year automatic 15%. He doesn't have that mandate today, and he won't have that mandate tomorrow. But let me warn that from tomorrow, every other decision of Parliament will be by voting. Let me warn that tomorrow, every other decision of Parliament, we will insist on minimum numbers of headcount. At appropriation and estimates, we will vote on them. And therefore, if this is the way they want us to work, we are very capable of working with them. Therefore, if they claim that they respect the Constitution, they must respect the fact that today's decision is a constitutional nullity, because the Deputy Speaker has no original nor casting vote. Nothing more. And therefore, they were at best 137. I have already warned that cooperation we should be mindful of the consequence of the lack of cooperation on the Ghanaian people, particularly those who want their salaries paid at the end of January. It was for those reasons we made those difficult overtures to them. Now, for those of you who think that they are right on many of the issues, we will share with you some other details relating to the budget. I don't want to go to the politics of walkout, but to remind you, those of you who are familiar with the history of Ghana, I want to take you to Memory Lane, 3rd August 1956, and you know them by who they are. When the motion of destiny was moved in Parliament in December 1956 for independence in 1957, the minority led by Buzia walked out, just as you saw. The vote was taken, and the colonial government accepted the vote as 72-0, and it carried. It carried. So, practice, precedent, convention, let them be guided. The opposition protested to the British Parliament, but their protest was thrown out and dismissed. Per Eskime, a deputy speaker is not a speaker, and that is the reason why in the House of Commons, the deputy speaker is not addressed as the speaker. When he is presiding, he is referred to by his title. This position was affirmed by Speaker Ala Jete. So if they are happy quoting Speaker Do Ajaho, they should read. The Honorable Ahmed, let me conclude by the ruling of Professor Michael Kwe, if you have it. But I'll be happy to take questions from the media whilst we look at those issues. We'll address the issues comprehensively, but the questions the Ghanaian people must be asking. This budget was approved with concessions. Concessions are known to the Parliament of Ghana, and concessions are known to us. And that we decided to stand strong because we do not support the introduction of an e-levy. We have repeatedly cautioned that it will take us back into what we have been trying to do, to a cash functional economy, and affect the development of a digital economy, and they are just being opportunistic and exploitative with those particular issues. I'll be happy to answer questions from you. So let them be reminded that today what they have done is itself. Professor Michael Kwe, see February 2020. The minority side claimed that they were not invited to participate in a meeting of the Finance Committee to consider the referral of the contract of the EPC. So let me just share another ruling with you. So constitutional and parliamentary jurisprudence will only be richer. This is what Professor Michael Kwe observed. We all know in this house that on both sides, there have been all manner of boycotts at some time or the other, which is fine. If a boycott arises, those who are seized with their work may do so and have to do so. So we did so, and we had to do so last Friday in the words of Professor Michael. Otherwise, government business will cease. This time it was the government people boycotting and running away from government business. And he further said that no group, no matter where it belongs, can arrest the business of the nation because they choose not to take part in a particular business. So they could not have arrested what we were doing on Friday by the words of their own speaker, Professor Mike Okwe. If you want the reference, see February 2020. Thank you very much.
We'll start this way, and then we'll go. So please come forward, and then followed by you. Leader, pay attention to the questions. Yes.
Unlike us, we are Democrats. We will allow people to ask questions. Come. No, let's
Yeah, my name is Kosi Komsen, editor of the Punch newspaper. When Speaker returns. Do you intend to undo what they've done today?
We want a functional country. We hear you.
Leader, when the first deputy speaker was presiding, you talked about the original and casting vote. He counted himself, and his explanation was that he was not taking part in the voting. When he put the question, he was silent. Is there any difference in that regard? And what does that mean for...
If you are silent, less 137.
Yes, so...
If you are silent, less 1.
Yes.
137.
Yes. What does that
In
mean?
any case, we have referred you to a standing order and the provisions of the Constitution that he had no business adding himself and counting himself. We only can describe what has happened as a constitutional sham of a purported vote of a budget and economic policy statement. Thank you.
Let me just add that for the purposes of decision, he was no longer on the floor. The moment you are sent to be speaker, you lose that right to be part of a decision. And so when it comes to counting for a decision, for the purposes of decision, it doesn't make him lose his position as a member of parliament for Bakwai. But for purposes of decision, at that moment, he couldn't have counted himself.
The second leg of the question is, so what does that mean for your absence? You are 137. If you were present, what that meant was that when the question was put, we would have had no 137 to counter the yes 137.
We don't intend to respond to that. What we do know is that they say we should respect Constitution and that we're 137. We are also aware that they are 137, but they are jubilating that they have approved the budget, yet we couldn't reject the budget with the same number. We leave that to your thoughts. We'll take two more.
May I know? That's not Compliance, my name, yes. May I know if once you stayed out of the proceedings today, will you be part of the estimation and appropriations?
We'll discuss it as a caucus tomorrow, but as I said, the indication is that cooperation has suffered and will suffer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Clement Akolo for Parliament News 360. What I want to find out is, does it matter that last week on Friday, when you checked the votes and proceedings, you were 274? That is the total house was 274. But today, we had only 137 plus one, which is 138. Does it matter in the decision making?
We are masters of our own procedure by the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution. But more importantly, the precedent they are setting will hunt them into the future, and it will provide basis to raise the status of many other major decisions taken yesterday, from 2017 to yesterday, that at the time that those decisions were taken, the House was not 138, I can give you 37 videos to support that. So, but because we are masters of our own procedure, that is why we strongly must ask the attempt. We will no longer accept the attempt by the majority leader to impugn the integrity of the Speaker, to undermine his authority and mandate as Speaker, and questioning every other decision of the Speaker is not good for our parliamentary democratic practice. I have shared, I'm sure once in a while, some of you have said, Haruna and Michael Kwe, beyond the words, if you disrespect me, I'll disrespect you. I never spoke further to them. It is not because I was not capable, but because he was still the Speaker of the House. We will call the Honorable Majority Leader's bluff that he is no longer in that 2017-2020 days where he disrespected the minority with impunity. We will not take it any further. And I'm saying that from tomorrow, he must be prepared that on every matter, I will call for head count, if that is the way they want this country to be governed. Then,
we just okay. My question is.
My question is. Go ahead. Okay. So Friday you disapprove. Today they undone that and approve. Do you recognize that? And what are we expecting?
I said it's a constitutional nullity. Part of the reason why negotiations failed, they were determined to restore the defeated budget last Friday. So that's why cleverly they are saying that approve it subject to concessions. What concession? Do you know the concessions? So what have you approved? So we said tinker with it and respond to those issues in a tier statement and submit it. They said no. It is not about imposing hardships on the Ghanaian people and just feeling easy with it. We know that they are in dire fiscal conditions, and this will not save them. The Honorable Whip will respond to one of the issues where sometimes we stand up and we are ignored, and probably that could be.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Someone was asking that if we were in the chamber, we could have been 137, the vote would have been lost. I believe someone put a video of me with Professor Quay, where it is the speaker, you must cut the speaker's eye. And we are very informed what they were trying to do. What they were trying to do was that if we were in the chamber, after the question, he will go blind and he will not see. But our presence will have given them a vote and proceedings of tomorrow of 275 to legitimize, just as we are insisting that we were 274. So our absence will give them a vote of proceedings tomorrow of 138 minus a speaker, that is 137. The standing order says, and I'll quote, in order 7, Speaker or Mr. Speaker includes member presiding at a sitting. So if you are sitting, you become, if you are in the chair, if you are presiding, you become Mr. Speaker. You cannot, for purposes of decision, be counted as part of those who were there to take decision. And if we were in the chamber and he went blind to call us to be able to call for head count, we would have helped them legitimize what the action they were doing. And that was why strategically we had to be absent, so that the vote of proceedings will show, because the two records will become the records of this country thousands of years to come, both the Hansard and then the vote of proceedings. And it will be clearly shown on Friday we were 274, as against on Tuesday 138 when one was presiding as speaker. So that's the major reason why we chose to be absent, because it was clear during the discussions that was what they wanted to do.
We have to pull the curtains down.
Leader, one last question. Leader, my question.
Okay, two.
Leader, my question. Leader, just a clarification, Leader.
So, my name is Pakavos, and I work with Joy FM. Leader, the NPP described what you did last Friday as unconstitutional. Today, you are saying it is equally unconstitutional. My question is simple. What are you going to do?
They must take responsibility for walking the country into a constitutional and parliamentary democratic crisis. I said we were ready to support them on those matters. And I've asked you, concessions, share it with me. What concessions you know? They approve a budget with concessions. If you know the concessions, share with me. Nowhere in the budget text do we know what the concessions are. So we said incorporate it into the budget text for purpose of the fact that Parliament is a meeting of record. Then we can refer to the paragraph and know. For instance, assurance that you want to support the people of Keita with tidal waves. We want to be able to know that the schools will be built and built urgently, and now want to know that engineering work will commence and assurance is given to them. All that affects the budget line. So if you don't adjust it and say you go to committee, they shouldn't forget, they will come back to us for appropriation. We thank you very much.
Revolution.